Hello, I'd like to thank you all for coming to this meeting for our new hardware rollout for Taters Incorporated. Coming from our corporate office, and I'd like to thank you all for being here. Nice to see everybody. Okay, this is going to be set up and presented by our CTI-140 group that we have from our corporate office. Okay, so in corporate, we were deciding that we needed to step away from our old Windows XP operating systems and that we needed a new change for the company. And so we decided to replace our older operating systems currently used by across the board by our company's machines. And because Windows 10, we decided on Windows 10 Enterprise. And because it's a newer operating system, it features better user experience, increased security, more business-oriented services like device encryption, group policy management, also assigned access version 8.1, the remote desktop, and all these new features that we have for Windows 10 Enterprise will be used by the company, and we could even scale that back using our group policy. Now, the main problem we get to is that much of our hardware is not able to handle the newer operating system, whether by RAM requirements or just because the system is outdated. So there are a few pros and cons to this new operating system that we've thought about. Now, the biggest thing that it offers is it has more features than the previous versions, and that could be that any of the features could be used by a company. We just have to decide when to use them. Now, the GUI is also more visually appealing than that of Windows XP, and the newer operating system has a longer lasting support as it's brand new. And as I was saying, Windows XP ended its support in April of 2014. Now, some of the bad things that we've discovered, which aren't all that bad, is that while we do have, or is our hardware can't support Windows 10, or the requirements needed to run it properly, as they're not that powerful, or they just don't have the RAM required. Now, Windows also has many features that might not be needed for a company's needs, but that can be dialed back using group policy. Now, we decided, or we, during discussions and during meetings, we decided to look at three different things, whether it was replace only, the update only, or the update and replace. Now, for the replace only idea, this can be expensive as it will waste funds when we might not necessarily need a full replacement, and we can just update a few things in the machine. Now, some of our computers and company machines do actually and are capable of using Windows 10 Enterprise, and they don't really need to be replaced. Now, the upgrade idea, while this is a great and efficient idea, it would not work because some of our machines cannot be upgraded to the current Windows 10 Enterprise because their systems cannot handle it. So this could be time consuming in upgrading, just because of the fact that it takes time to roll out these new software updates. Now, then we came to upgrade and replace when needed. So this was much more cost efficient in the idea than the update or the replace, as we would update what we could and replace what we couldn't. Now, this is the best way to allocate our funds during the transition period over the next year. Now, some machines only need to be upgraded with newer versions of the current setup, so this saves money but takes time. Other machines will need to be replaced, or they might need their RAM or other components to be replaced. Now, some things to be considered is that while some of our equipment will be able to handle it, some won't. And during this transition period, they also might not be strong enough to handle the strain of the network services going down, and therefore might go into a transition of doing a hard shutdown. Now, this is we want to avoid. So the highest priority for the new rollout is going to be the backbone of our company. So our servers are going to have the larger impact at the time for the changeover. And then our medium priorities for the departments hold a medium role in the day-to-day activities. So downtime during the period brings some stress to the system, but not as much as we intend. So low priority is going to be our oversight or our company users who aren't into the servers or access to the R&D for our administration area Taters Incorporated. So we did several hardware analysis for our current setup. So here we have our Toshiba Satellite A665 laptop. Now this has an Intel Core i5. It has 4 gigabytes of DDR3 RAM, of which DDR4 is the current standard, and it also offers a 300 gigabyte hard drive. Now I know what you're thinking, but this laptop is actually outdated by several generations of CPUs, and with the current generation being Kaby Lake and Skylake. So the older RAM version compared to today's laptops is also not as efficient. So we actually do recommend to replace this laptop with a newer computer so it can just better handle the tasks of scaling with applications or services. Now, another one is our Dell Precision Tower of 5810. So it has an Intel Xeon E5 with 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM and 500 gigabyte hard drive. Now, this is definitely capable of running our Windows 10 Enterprise, and we just recommend we might increase the RAM to fully handle the task of everything we might do, including Windows 10 Enterprise. Here we have our Lenovo Y40. While this has an Intel Core i7 and has DDR3 RAM, 4 gigabytes of it, with a 500 gig hard drive, it does not really need an upgrade, as it will pretty much suit the company's needs. It can handle the applications and services of today's world and it has a robust architecture called Haswell. And it's been a very successful CPU market for architecture. Now, the next one is going to be our Dell Optiplex 320. Now, this has an Intel Pentium D 2-core at 800 megahertz. It's got 4 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM and a 300 gig hard drive. Now, this is also outdated, with the CPU no longer being powerful enough for the company's needs, and the amount of RAM in the machine is not sufficient for daily tasks within the company, especially with the new operating system. This is going to be one of the main hardware components that are going to need to be replaced. Our next is our Dell Optiplex 755. Now this has an Intel Core 2 Duo 2-core at 2.66 hard drive, gigahertz, and has 4 gigabytes of DDR2 RAM. Also has a 300 gig hard drive. Now, like the previous model, the 320, this computer is outdated. The CPU is no longer powerful enough for our needs, and the RAM in the machine is definitely not sufficient. This computer actually came out in 2006, and it's going to need a more modern upgrade and modern computer. Now, this is our Dell Optiplex GX110. Now, this computer came out in 1999 to 2000, and it has an Intel Pentium 3 1-core at 1 gigahertz. It has 4 gigabytes of SD RAM and has a 300 gigabyte hard drive. Now, this won't even be able to handle Windows 8.1, much less Windows 10, and so this is definitely going to have to be changed if we want to do a full rollout for the company. Now, here's a basic list of our recommendation list for our upgrades and replace. So for upgrades, we of course have our Dell Precision Tower 5810 or Lenovo Y40. Now, for upgrading, it might not necessarily be RAM, it could be hard drive, it could just be the chipset. So there might be different things that we might need to upgrade depending on what the problem is. Now for the replacing, we need to replace our Toshiba Satellite A665, the Dell Optiplex 320, 755, and the GX110. Now these should be replaced with the more current equivalent model for the desktops and laptops that we would need for our company. Now here's our first proposition for our replacement for the desktops for the 320, 755, and GX110 models. Now this currently is well within our budget. It's great. It's a small form factor 3050 Dell Optiplex Tower. Has a Intel Core i3 and has 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, has a 500 gig hard drive, and it's about $569 per computer. It's a good computer because of the fact that it can handle our needs. It might need a little bit of RAM increase, but for the most part, it stays within the company budget. Next, for our laptops, replacing our Toshiba A665 would be our Dell Latitude 5480s. Now this operates on an Intel Core i5 and has 4 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, offers a 500 gig hard drive, It's priced at about $869. While it's not the cheapest laptop and certainly not the most expensive by today's standards, it would allow for years of use and the upgrades would be fairly minimal, as you might only need to upgrade the RAM. Now, this would suit our purpose well and is well staying within the company's budget, and it does leave growth for other sectors. So here's our main upgrade for some of the older models that will be able to run Windows 10, especially Windows 10 Enterprise. This is the DDR4 Corsair Vengeance 8 gig RAM stick. Now this is only about $90 right now, and we could buy it in bulk and continue upgrading our computers as we see fit over the coming years. And this will save us a lot of time and effort. And this could help us replace old PC parts and components. So now here's the total cost of our PC replacements and upgrades. So while we're trying to get to the Optiplex 3050 with about $569, we need 165 machines. That's about $93,885. With the Latitude, it is $869 with about 36 machines, and that'll cost us about $31,284. With the RAM and Corsair Vengeance, it's only going to be about $7,370, with a total rollout and replacement cost of about $132,539. But this doesn't include the setup and time spent testing and everything. This is only for our hardware replacements and upgrades components. Now, some of the departments for this rollout and the timeline map. So here are all of our departments with our administrative offices, finance, sales, main processing facilities, our shipping and receiving, our research and development, our facilities and maintenance, and the IT support department. Now, for the department rollout, we're going to do this based on the needs. So we have our facilities and maintenance, then sales and shipping and receiving, then our main processing facility, and then our research and development, IT, finance, and then finally our administrative offices. And this is based on priority. And finally, we're going to put this into a more calendar-oriented rollout time frame. This will allow us to meet our goals and deadlines. So in the 2018 year, it's going to be more light. It's going to be towards the end of the year, with September being our rollout for our facilities and maintenance, October being our sales. This will leave us just enough time for everything, and then November will be shipping and receiving. December will be our feedback and testing month between those. And then once we get into January through March, it's going to be our main processing facility, as we want to ensure that that's going correct and everything is going to work properly and exactly how we want it to. April through June is going to be our research and development rollout to make sure that they're happy and everything else is going to work fine. All of their software, all their systems, and everything is going to work how we intended. Now in June, it's going to be our IT department. That should be relatively quick, as our IT department knows what they're doing and can roll this out and get it exactly tuned up to how they need it in their specs. And July will be our finance department, with August being our administrative offices, and September is our final testing and feedback period to just tweak everything and get our group policy set up to where exactly how we need it. Now finally, we're just going to bring it all together with our conclusion and just to go back over some of the topics. Now, because our hardware is so outdated, we will need to replace it and upgrade it to be able to properly handle our Windows 10 Enterprise, which is our choice. Now, for the recommended desktops and laptops we should replace is based on the hardware upgrade replacement plan that we mentioned earlier, and recommending upgrading RAM and remaining systems that can handle Windows 10 and the company's Dell Precision 5810 machines, or such as those. Now, for the planned course of this new rollout, it should take about a year to complete with the appropriate testing periods. By taking this year, all needed upgrades and replacements will be taken care of without having to waste the company's resources for an extended period of time over a course of a couple of years. So by having it into a year and putting in our testing phases throughout throughout the plan, this will eliminate the need for small hitches in the road and allow us to get exactly where we need to be going forward. I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I'd like to thank you all for listening to our new company rollout. Um, it's good to see you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.